Switton's.
Seeing him. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Chip, I'll go to you then. Kicking it off with wins of the week. Anything on your side as we collectively out there think about some wins? Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be what got blocked or detained from SaaS alerts, but how about you, Chip? It's a good week for you. How things?
Good week, busy week. I'm not aware directly of any huge SaaS alerts, compromise takedowns. I always like them when we get those from partners, and unfortunately, the last few months I have less direct contact with partners, other than this call, which is the highlight of the week. But let's see. I suppose real good meeting with a bunch of folks in Kaseya in person earlier this week. Was down in Miami for a while and moving together on Enrique and Andy's favorite topic, which is restructuring Kaseya billing, and that is definitely moving along. And you guys are actually more supportive of that effort than just the fact that you all comment on it often gives me a lot of leverage to push the agenda and steer things more toward the SaaS alerts way. And the whole company's going to shift to that by next year, by end of second quarter. That will be completely done, and there'll be announcements on individual products coming up in October. So if you haven't made your reservations for DataCon already, do it up. You have a bunch of SaaS alerts team members as presenters on main stage for various topics, yours truly included. So should be fun.
Awesome.
I'm only going if Leron's presenting main stage. Is Leron presenting main stage again?
I
I'm going
think
to
he
be
probably is.
like 3 days before I'm supposed to do it is when I'll be.
That's why he got a haircut now, so it's grown in just
That's
perfectly
right.
when he gets to October.
Yeah.
You're the new Mr. October. You're the Derek Jeter of Kaseya now, Leron. They're going to call you up, just the day before, and
May I give an observation of a win for SaaS alerts?
yeah,
And that
Of
is
course.
that Chip's company with Jim and Leron is transforming how Kaseya supports, implements, and executes their service delivery. That's something
Well,
that I'm observing here.
appreciate the observation, Andy, but I do have to say that we predicted this when we first announced that this was going to happen, and there was some trepidation. So I feel like we're delivering on promises.
It's a David versus Goliath thing in my view, right? In other words, you guys have shown them that there's a better way.
Well, I got to be honest, this was there. I think there were people that were willing to jump in and do this, get out of their lane, think outside the box, however you want to define that. I keep finding people are like, oh yeah, sure, I'd be willing to try that. Or, hey, I'll take that back to my clients and see what they want. I think they were always there in the ecosystem. It was just a couple of things that needed to be lined up, like some scrappy little startup showing up and trying to infect all these processes. But it was always there.
Yeah, I would agree with Anthony. Like it wouldn't have happened unless there was an internal flywheel that was beginning to spin up to go in these directions anyway. They just needed the right push.
And you had a change in senior leadership that did this. That was the
There were
other
a couple
part
of
of it.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So the investors are driving the bus a little bit on this too.
Chip, our full support for anything you need. Letters, change.org.
Okay.
And by the way, Chuck, if it makes any difference, I can share my experience and what we've been going through and what my observations are as well. So on the offsite of that.
Hey, look, anytime you want to put your thoughts down on paper and send it to the executive leadership team via Jim, or you can email Rania directly for all I care. You guys are always welcome to voice what you see and as changing and improving, and also what you call out as you want to see faster direction in this way or that.
And if that doesn't work, Chip, I've got a guy named Bruno who will come down and speak to people and tell them that Chip's really got the right idea. Let's make it happen.
You share Bruno's contact?
Yes, absolutely. We do. He's a timeshare, so we just
good.
We
just got to pay our monthly dues.
That's right. That's right.
There's a Bruno subscription service coming.
That's right.
Bruno as a service. I love it.
Yep.
Kick ass as a server. I mean, I'm
Could you
sorry.
imagine that as a marketing effort for accounts receivable? Bruno as a service.
That's a wild one. So, Andrew, you flipped over the slide to partner wins. What do we got, folks?
Let's
Who's
hear
had,
it.
who's had some good ones this week? Security related or not?
Yeah.
We had an
That-
EDR win or Defender or a Rocket Cyber win, I guess. With another one of those Win plus R commands running instruction, copy paste off a web page, do this, and connecting to win dot something domain. Big win for Rocket Cyber because Blackpoint and Rocket Cyber on that machine, and Blackpoint called an hour later once it was already isolated on Rocket Cyber, asking why they couldn't reach the device.
Awesome. So, Enrique, I'm just curious, when Blackpoint calls an hour later, do you say to them, us guys, we're already aware of this. We have other tools that beat you to it.
I was flat and told him on an email, you can't see the device because it's been isolated by Rocket Cyber an hour ago. But then when I got their MDR report, is Rocket Cyber stops at that. Do you want us to isolate? Not, and that's it. But then when I got the Blackpoint MDR report, because Rocket Cyber reached out and said, hey, you were investigating what's going on. So, and I sent them the Blackpoint report. And I go, this is what happened, which was very detailed and depth. Because then we ended up removing the Rocket Cyber isolation so Blackpoint could go do their MDR stuff.
Yeah.
So I think areas of opportunity.
Very cool.
That's important.
Who else? You guys are so bashful today. Come on, it
Not
only helps.
exactly a win
dog
for
days of
anybody
summer.
here.
I got something.
But-
I got something
Go.
to
Oh, go for
share.
it.
Yeah, let's hear you.
So we get customers that don't have SaaS alerts, and we've had 2 episodes of compromises over the last week. And the first thing my boss does is say, he turns on the SaaS alerts just in the background, and then tells the customer that we've enabled some alert systems to kind of watch out for any further trouble. So, I mean, it's after the fact, but it is one of the first things we do is we turn on SaaS alerts to make sure that there's no more compromises, and then he tries to make a sale, for the tool, which is good.
What's the success rate on that?
This is within the last 2-week window, so I'm still waiting for a comment. One of them was a small law firm, or small, but not that small. So, and we're thinking they're probably going to go for the add-on. We haven't heard back yet. So there's two in the last 2 weeks, and one is probably likely to happen. The other one don't know yet.
And would you mind describing, what kind of a compromise they got?
It
they
was
got
a
popped
phishing
into?
email. It was a phishing email that they clicked on the phishing email, and then the compromise happened. They got in and started to send out bad phishing. Alert, they used the person's email account
Yep.
and contacts to send out the junk. So that was one, and then the other one was a man in the middle style. Somebody was reading emails and basically intercepted a invoice and then redid the invoice with new banking information. So that one was caught by people just paying attention, and it wasn't our client; it was one of our clients' customers
Right.
that detected it. So now we've kind of proposed, adding this, SaaS alerts to try to, in this case, it's a little bit harder because it was the customer of the client that's got, hit. So, but
Well,
it could have
was it
had
the-
ramifications if they had applied the banking rules.
So the customer or the client got an email telling them to send their payment somewhere different from your client?
So the client sent the invoice. The invoice got picked up by the perpetrator somewhere around the recipient. They had somebody hacked into their side.
Oh,
They
got it.
redid the message and then and then let it come into the client's email. The customer's email. And when they saw the bank payment information, they called our client and said, "Did you add this? Like, did you put this on here?" They were trying to confirm it. So, but at that point, they became aware that somebody intercepted the original invoice and modified
So you're
it.
saying, that the attacker intercepted the inbound email on the customer side, not your client,
Not, that's right. On the customer
held it,
side,
paused
that's,
it somehow,
yep,
and reframed it, and then sent it forward? I mean, that's
yep.
a
We
very,
saw, and
very sophisticated attack
and
chain.
yeah, and what they did was they reformatted it, and then the email addresses were doctored so that it had the original, client's email address, and all they did was append the at mail at the end, so that visibly, if you skimmed it, the email addresses, and it did it for multiple addresses, the accounting department, the return address, they all looked like the normal email addresses for our client. But if you widened the view and looked at the end, you saw that they had attached another domain on the end of the email address. So, somebody paying attention and maybe watching looking at the email header would have seen it right away. But because they put it way at the end of the long email address, sometimes the email viewers will truncate that part so it's not so visible.
Hmm.
So at quick view, it looks like the email is legitimate. But they
Ben,
rewrote the header page. They put the person's signature on the bottom. I mean, the original client signature was on the bottom of the page and everything. It was really interesting. So, I
Ben or
mean,
Andrew, what are your thoughts on that? That seems to be a little bit of a different construction of a compromise pattern than I'm at least accustomed to hearing, that someone actually stops an inbound email at the server. Like, I'm already guessing that this is maybe a locally hosted email server that they compromised and got in the middle here. Like, I'm a little befuddled as to how that attack chain work. Your thoughts?
Yeah, saying I'd love to hear Ben's thoughts, but what I will say is it speaks to dwell time, Chip, that how you have a threat actor in
That
an
was in that, lot of hang time in that compromised customer.
that's the bigger piece that I just wanted to
Mhm.
call out.
well, just to add on to that, their IT people, gathered up a lot of information and shared some of it with us, including the 365 sign-in audit for several days. And this attacker was using the normal things we see under SaaS alerts, coming in through a VPN, coming in through Canada, Montreal, Canada in
Mhm.
this case. They had been in there for a couple of days and were, definitely in there looking around at the emails and paying attention. And that's what they did. They just somehow like you said, they got in there and were able to stop the email from getting to the client. So they must have sandwiched in their domain. Somehow they must have gotten themselves in the middle of
Well, they
somehow to
probably had
grab all
direct
their email.
control then of the mailbox of the bookkeeper. Were
That's correct.
deleting messages from that were
Yeah.
legitimate before she even got a chance to look at them, and then sending in the bogus ones. So that would make sense.
Yeah,
Or
Um,
yeah.
I'll hand it to Ben or Chip, what they were obviously sitting in those, and he said it's M365, not on-prem, but they're obviously sitting in those mailboxes and Ben probably created some type of rule in the
Mhm.
inbox. So it went to a different folder.
yep.
So the user never saw it. So it got there. They were able to then reconstruct it and then forward it back out. That's my guess, Ben. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And
I
you
think you're
can,
spot on.
yeah, Microsoft has a really good mail tracer too that you can see what's actually coming and going. Might be worth taking a look at.
Well, it's in this case, it's not our client directly, it's the customer of the client. So
Mm.
we just got reports back from the IT person that they hired to kind of review the issue and figure
Mm.
out what happened. And they shared some of that with us since we were investigating our client side of the communication.
Interesting.
But it's a great TTR. I'm not sure your first name, but can you just say that? I see TTR, whatever your name is. But what
Oh
it
yeah,
does,
Rich Kennedy, Total Tech. So.
oh, hey, Rich.
Oh,
What it
Rich.
does, Rich, what it does speak to, though, Chip, is something we've been beating to death is third-party risk. And a great story you could use, right, about, you know, that, someone might say, well, again, we're not regulated. We don't have to do these things, et cetera. And again, it comes back to what about your largest What about your largest sources of revenue, right? What about those types of things? And what's at risk, right? Up and down your supply chain. Like that to me is the story here, right? Of the sales, right? Story, if
Yeah,
you will.
absolutely.
Because a lot of times people, again, we had on the cyber, I wish Corey was here today. I don't know, maybe he'll pop in if he hasn't yet, but we were talking on the cyber call this week, and it was really fascinating. I'm not sure if any of you caught it, but and I won't throw it on here, Chip, but I'll get to the point. The point that was really interesting was this is pretty much, it's interesting. SonicWall emphatically came out, said not a 0-day. We had a breach attorney on that's working 20 plus cases. And sure enough, so far, what looked like a 0-day is turning into a lot of misconfigurations and a bunch of things that were done incorrectly. But one of the things that came out was how, like Corey was saying, and some of the MSPs on the call were saying that, companies are even saying, yeah, we know there's a threat actor on this, but don't isolate it because we can't disrupt business. And I mean, it was a really like mind-blowing yet fascinating conversation when you're hearing end customers say, yeah, we'll deal with the consequences. We can't stop doing business right now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I think that's asinine, but like that's
It
just
is.
crazy.
Yeah, Gary, look, agree vehemently. I'm vehemently.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say, look, we can't take down our perimeter systems to patch for a known exploit at this moment. We'll get to it in 48 hours or whatever. It's another thing to say we know that systems are compromised, but we're just going to keep going and hope that a forensics team can get in there and root them out without us having to shut anything down or block access.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
And literally the breach council is also validating this. Like, yeah, this is this crazy shit that's going on right now.
Yep. I'll make
Anyway.
one other comment on Rich's incident. Two more wins there, I think, that can be called out. Number one, I think TTR has a new customer prospect for sure with the company that got hacked. An opportunity maybe to scoop them up from another MSP or at least get their security services in there. And two, whoever it was that actually had the good sense to call Rich's customer, who in this case is the vendor, and say, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. That person deserves a medal. Whether or not they did it instinctively or their company does good training, it's always good to note that when the people end of this function well, because we always say the problem is it's the ID10T error, right? It's between the seat and the keyboard. When somebody does what they should do well, we always got to call that out as a win.
That's really good point, Chet. Really,
Well, I'll add one more note here. The controller of our client, our company, sent a follow-up note saying that they were now wanting details on what further they could do to watch out for themselves. Even though they're enrolled in our cyber, coursework and all the things that we have with the cyber, stack, they were saying, well, what are some specific things we should watch out to be careful of anything regarding wire transfers? So that, that caused them to kind of be a little more thoughtful about what they wanted to, put into practice to watch out for, whatever they can do on their side of the transactions.
It's good stuff, Rich.
really good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks.
Someone else was about to say, I don't know if it was Anthony. Anthony, were you going to say something?
Oh,
No.
yeah, just when everybody was being quiet, I've done a few onboardings, and occasionally we'll find a threat actor in the systems, when we're in the onboarding process. But last week I had 3 different partners have 3 different clients that had something going on, credentials being used overseas, EM client had been left behind, and it was just kind of a banner week for 3 of those to happen all at once. So it happens to the best of us. Just get those clients on there, get them in monitoring. That's the only way we can do this. We can fix this.
But by the way, Justin do you mind talking, or can you, I really appreciate what you put in. This is what I wanted to talk about. This kind of thing is what we heard on the cyber call. So if you take a look in chat, Justin, do you have a second?
Sure.
Yeah, like this is the crazy crap that we're talking about, right? Like hypothetically, if let's just say that was a 0 day, or it's like, yeah, no, you can't take them off, you can't take them offline, right? That's what you're hearing. Am I paraphrasing correctly?
Yes. So the CFO has a person who handles specialized reporting for their largest customer. So they have this person that doesn't work in the office and that has to access these reports and create reports for their largest customer on a daily basis. And the CFO just came unglued and sent me all kinds of, it was a email chain, was probably about 20 emails deep, going back and forth over the necessity of doing this. I did it against her better wishes because a compromise would take them all the way down. So I wasn't willing to risk. And in the end, she agreed to it, but there was some tense conversation going back and forth.
Can I rant just a second here, Justin,
Yep.
for everybody's sake? This, and Chip, I'd love you to chime in as somebody that has gone through ISO and SOC and on. This for MSPs is the number one importance of you and your customers reviewing policy. Like number one, that's first and foremost, because hypothetically, and I'm not saying you do or don't, Justin, so don't, this is more rhetorical.
Yep.
If Justin's company said, hey, your policy says X, Y, and Z, then are you, Mr. or Mrs. CFO, we've agreed your policy says this. Are you telling us we're going against policy? Right. That's number one. Number two, and I'll drone on about this with their largest, if you framed it to that CFO and said, let me ask you a question. If your largest customer gets compromised because of your negligence of a known potential 0 day or a known vulnerability or a known whatever, what do your customer contracts say first and foremost? Do you know what they say about breach notification, about data handling, about all these things? I bet you would have a very different CFO on the line. Number one. Well, Chip, what are your thoughts on those 2 points?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of thoughts. I think we in our businesses have all been in a situation where one of our largest customers was applying some kind of leverage or demand for something that we wouldn't do for anybody else. So everybody knows what that pressure feels like. I think you're right. The action to make sure that as MSPs and MSSPs we're talking to our customers and reviewing, what the policies are, doing a review at least once a year and asking them, how can we strengthen this? How can we strengthen that? Certainly helps. It might not help completely because in this situation, you still might have a CFO saying, look, I'm in a panic here. Like, I'm going to lose this customer if we don't do it. And I understand what our policy is, but I'm still saying no. Justin steps in and does the right thing, which is in the end to protect the customer from themselves. But the last thing I think that we can get better at as an industry is teaching our customer in this situation how to talk to their customer, which you were kind of alluding to, Andrew, which is saying, look, I'll get on the phone with you and we'll walk through this together. I want you to help you support your customer. I want you to I'll explain to them that this is a recently discovered vulnerability. It has to be patched and remediated effectively and quickly. And we are doing this, even though it might be an inconvenience for your reporting, but we're doing this to protect the data that we manage for you. And that's why it's essential. We can help people get over the panic moments, okay, either giving them the talk track or offering to do it with them because they don't often have the technical lexicon to go and describe that themselves. As far as they can get is my IT guys are telling me that I have to go offline for the next 6 hours and you can't get your report. Like they can't get past that and they know that's inadequate. So, taking that extra step and helping them describe it with their customer, I think is worth considering.
Tying it to the business though, right, Chip? That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. One thing about the technology. So real well said. By the way, Rich, Go ahead, Ann.
So I was just gonna back, I guess the CFO person, did they like not believe this was as bad or potentially bad, like as you were saying? Like, what was their direct rationale to like flat out not want the security updated? Like, did they not really believe that the threat was there, or they just felt like, yeah, I agree the threat is there, but this reporting is so much more important? Like, did they not understand that there was a real threat?
My experience with small businesses that I deal with is that they never believe that the threat is going to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
So every single client that I have has this, yeah, it's just not going to happen. You know, we drive on in Los Angeles, and your chances are great to have a car accident, but I'm not going to wear a seatbelt. It's that type of mentality because unfortunately, you know, they've been in business for, 30 years and none of these things have ever happened to them.
By the way,
Interesting.
yeah, it's interesting, fascinating, mind-boggling, Anne. It's all wrapped up in one as far as the psychology of this goes. By the way, Rich, isn't SonicWall 7.3 the latest?
Yeah, 7.3 is the latest, and for some reason, this one machine, we've been applying updates to all the Sonic walls, but this one was on a long list of an alphabetized list for our Philippines tech to work on, and it was a W, it was way down the bottom of the list, so we hadn't gotten there yet, and yeah, it was just a very quick jump in on the 7.2, problem, and thankfully Huntress was right on top of it to stop it.
Yeah.
So,
And this is what we ranted at. Corey's been ranting about, and I feel for the guy because I think what this is going to turn out to be, and what we're hearing is the threat actor group, Akira and these others that kind of smell blood in the water, realized a kind of a window of opportunity was closing, that they found a bunch of, and there you can see the pattern. Either they're not on 7.3, they didn't rotate credentials, they had a service account linked to an LDAP. It was interesting, Chip. There were this litany of, low-hanging fruit that was initially dubbed, oh, it's a 0 day, because so many of these were happening simultaneously. So this leads into next week, Saa y Call, where we had the breach attorney on this week, and I have a 58-second video that I'll share with you all. It's out on LinkedIn too, where he talks about don't speculate as an MSP, because a lot of MSPs were coming on saying, oh, well, it's a 0 day. And he's like, do not speculate anything when there's an incident, because you never want to have to walk back your words. And a lot of instances, what he is saying is, this is what we're starting to find is it's not a 0 day. It's a 7.2, not a 7.3, et cetera, et cetera. So, wow, good for you. Is it Sujit?
Sujit.
That's phenomenal. Good for you.
Yeah.
How'd you do
Gotta
that?
use-
Thing or?
No, just NSM. So SonicWall, if you have
okay.
Gen 7 and newer, they have the
Okay.
cloud management portal.
Yep.
It was, I think they came out with it like a couple of years ago, but it's been trash for the longest time. So I've had to just yell at my rep. And then eventually, as of I think May or June, they finally released an update that it works way better than it did before. It's finally responsive. So we had, funny enough, just started to get all of our firewalls registered in there correctly when that SSL issue came out. So I was in there in bulk, able to just create a template that said turn off SSL, applied it to everybody, immediately turned off within about 5 to 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
And then once we figured out that you're supposed to update and all this, applied that all in bulk, done within 10 minutes, as one person was able to handle it all. So we always try to push and look for vendors who have that kind of cloud management. Obviously, WAN management is a thing of the past. Locking it down by IP to WAN management is really a thing of the past. So we try to really steer away from that and try to go as best practice as possible, just to limit those avenues as often as possible.
Nice job. That's a big win.
Yeah, really nice job. I love Rhonda's comment, Andrew, in the chat. She's calling out, what we've been recommending to customers for a long time. And Rhonda, if you need a template for this specific to SaaS alerts, let us know because we've got it. But she's spot on. You have to make sure that the legal liability is squarely put on the shoulders of your client who refuses to do the right thing.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Important statement.
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't finish my thought, Chip, but so this week's cyber call, we're going to have what we call a right and left of boom attorney, right? So your business contracts, your SOWs, limitations of liability, all those things that should be done first. And then if what hits the fan, we're calling it if the cyber hits the fan.
Yeah.
What do you do on the other side when the breach attorney's breathing down your neck on the other side to make sure you're buttoned up? So,
yeah. Hey, SaaS Alerts team, I don't know if you're watching the chat, but we have a lot of, I would love the templates and Me Too's in there. Can we make sure we capture all that and reach out to folks?
All right. Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Connor. I didn't know if you were on or not.
Connor's always on it. All right. Any others? Good stuff. Okay, Miss Amanda, are you with us? Thought Amanda had something.
She does, but
she might be on mute.
Yeah, I don't see her in the
Not
list.
seeing her. Yeah, I didn't see her jump in.
Okay. You want to see if she's around, Anth, and we can move on while we're waiting for her?
Well, maybe Liron can pick this one up. I mean, Liron, do you know what Amanda, she wanted to, I think, ask some questions about automated calling and get feedback. Is that right, Liron?
Yeah, so we're building out the automated calling feature for Respond and IOCs. And just high level, what this feature is intended to do is when you set up an IOC or Respond rule, we want to enable you to be able to go in and say, when this happens, I want to receive a phone call. It's totally up to you whether you enable it or not. But the question that we have is, when something happens, let's say a rule triggers 100 times, we assume you do not want 100 phone calls, right? We're thinking one phone call per account, per organization. And so what that means is if you're monitoring a customer, an organization that has 100 accounts, and you have one rule that fires for 10 different accounts, that will be 10 different phone calls. So that's kind of the question is, I see Gary shaking your head. So that's the point, right? Is that we don't have a good answer to this, which is why we wanted to. Thank you, Andrew. I will be you know what we're going to do? We're going to take my voice, feed it into AI, and that's going to be the voice that you get.
Yeah, it is going to be a robotic phone call. Let's make that clear, everybody. This is not going to be a human being. This is going to be an AI agent
That's okay.
calling you up and saying,
Well,
this
I
customer
wouldn't
at this
say,
time.
Chip, not an AI agent. It's just going to be a voice that says, we want to get to
generated
an
voice.
agent.
Yes, you're correct. It's going to be an electronic agent.
My feeling is very simple. Is if you have a high level of confidence that the various or multiple instances are all related to the same infraction, breach, incident, whatever it is, then one phone call to notice that something is going on, I think is more than adequate. Or one phone call within an hour, or some time frame to not repeat it.
But what if? So there's multiple scenarios here, right? And so what we need to know is the rules to prevent the noise, right? Let's say you have 100 organizations, and for those 100 organizations, crazy, unrealistic scenario, but 10 accounts fire off a respond rule for all 100 organizations. What is the call frequency? Because what we're looking at potentially, right, is 10 accounts for 100 organizations. That's 1,000 potential compromises that just occurred. do you want one phone call that says, hey, we have one of these? Like, what does that look like mechanically
Well-
when that phone call comes through?
So when we get a call like that from our RMM vendor, we turn off the phones overnight. So at 7:30 in the morning, we have, kind of a catch-up call. So if there's anything pending from overnight, we'll get a call from the ConnectWise knock and say, we've got alerts from the following companies. And, they combine them into one phone call and say, check these out.
So aggregating, and the automated call will say something like, this organization, these 3 accounts, next, this organization, these 6 accounts, something like that.
Or if it's an automated call, this organization with 3 alerts. You don't have to, I don't know that you have to alert, basically your job is to get us to go look at the portal and figure out what's going on, not to give us the details.
So
Or
we have,
my feeling at least.
yep. So we have Enrique and Andy stacked up, and guys, we'll get to you a second. I have to ask one more question here. And if people could respond in the chat to this, it would be helpful, and then we can get on to the other ones. So we already have SMS, we have email, we have PSA automation, and we have the mobile app push if you use that. So there's already 4 methods, and I'm just curious to know how many people will take advantage of this service as well, and if you're going to drop one or more of the other notification methods. So, and you can just answer that like with a yes, comma, yes, or a yes, comma, no. And let's go to Andy. I think you had your hand up first.
Thank you for calling on me. So things that come up for me is one, I would love to be able to put in SaaS alerts. Here's the text that I want you to say for a critical alert with a, hey, this is the client name. This is a critical alert. Go look here. And so that's 1. 2, so being able to customize it by client and route the number by client. So it might go to me in my organization for everyone, but this one person, right? And this one customer, it goes to another individual. So to be able to have a unique number, to be able to have the message that I type in be read back to me with whatever variables that are necessary. And then lastly, to know what number it's calling from so I don't block it on my phone when I'm in Do Not Disturb at night, okay? So
Enrique?
So I think calls need to be simple, maybe the amount of organizations. And if it's a critical alert, like 10 organizations, I think going into detail of accounts is going to be more complicated. I think having a landing page for the phone call to where we go to the landing page and we immediately, instead of having to go filter and search, everything, all the detail for the call should be on a landing page. So that way we get a call, 3 organizations have critical alert, 1 organization has a medium alert, and you have a phone call landing page where we go and view more about it.
Chip, thought, in light of continuous phishing, trying to stay away from that as a potential another way. Now people find out SaaS Alerts is doing this and maybe start doing phishing. Is it possible to continue via app, push notification, but then in-app messaging to those areas to, so that we're not invoking potential areas that threat actors love and, to tie into?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to drop anything that we're currently doing, and we are currently doing in-app messaging for those who use, the SaaS Alerts mobile app. We're just, this is an expansion that's coming at the request of a number of partners. It's also coming internally from the recognition that our partner pool, universe has grown so fast that we have to offer, more and more efficient ways of going about doing this. And we're building this also to roll into both KSIM 2.0, which Leron's team is diligently working on, and even standalone Rocket Cyber will be able to offer it for them. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why we're doing it, but we're not dropping anything else that's already there.
Let me just clarify real quick. I don't mean an app on a phone. I mean, when I say in-app, I mean in the actual application itself, UI.
Oh, it's already there.
Okay. Well,
What this alerting is all about is getting someone into the app. Is saying, because Salesforce isn't constructed with the notion that someone has to sit in front of it and watch it all day. It's supposed to be there running in the background, doing its thing for you and notifying of event compromises that can come in many different forms of notification.
why does somebody want a phone call versus a board and a PSA? Like, I mean, my biggest concern for this is phishing and smishing, Chip, that someone's
Yeah, but
gonna.
Andrew, the problem is we don't sit there and stare at those alert boards all day long. We check them periodically. So if something big is going on, we need a little tickler to say, go check out the board or something's going on, and we can log into the portal, log into the app or whatnot.
But
Your PSA should be able to do that.
Yeah,
Once-
but
Yeah,
we're not stuck on the PSA all the time. Someone might not be looking. A phone call is a phone
so
call.
Andrew,
I'm
one
saying-
one way to validate your concern is to use the Kaseya 1 multi-factor authentication app to say, by the way, here's the code, enter it.
Yeah, I was simply saying, not just as FYI. I was saying to use the PSA to push out a text message or anything to keep it full circle.
it can probably be done, but ConnectWise doesn't have that notification built in readily.
And isn't this designed for like 3 a.m? Because I
Yeah.
mean, if I get a text message during the day, I'm going to look at my phone, but at 3 a.m, I don't hear the text message. So I assume that this is designed for that. You want to be woken up if something really bad happens.
Right.
Actually, I want my AI agent to do the job.
There you go.
Exactly. I mean, automation's got to be the key. If you're expecting a phone call at 3 a.m., I don't know how much that's going to do. We've had breaches happen at 2 a.m. on holidays and Rocket Cyber just quarantines. Well, attacker infected, great. At 8 a.m. I wake up and I handle it. The machine's already been quarantined. Or we have the IOC rules that automatically sign out the account, change the password, it's locked. Following day, the texts are in, they handle it. So I feel like that's the route to go.
As Chip stated, right, this is just another vehicle or mechanism for alerting, right? Sujit, so like none of the stuff that you talked about is going to go away. And for all I know, you might say this feature is useless to me. Like, we have automated rules. We don't plan to take advantage of automated calls, but we've had sufficient feedback from various partners tell us, I want that 3 a.m. phone call, because depending on where you are from a sophistication, technology, automation standpoint, and the way that it's going to work is you're going to have a schedule, right? So you're going to say Monday from this time to this time, the phone call goes to this person or these people, right? That's kind of the idea here, is to give you the flexibility if you choose to generate that call.
And Leron, is this designed more for, like you were saying, for multiple things? So if I wake up in the morning and there's one machine isolated, I'm not nervous. If I wake up in the morning and there are 100 machines isolated, I'm nervous. Is the goal of this to do a mass alert or do an alert when something really bad happens, or just standard bad things?
So what I'm picking up here, right, is that we need to apply aggregation logic to these calls. And what I mean by that is, Tobin, to your point a second ago, maybe we have to put logic on top of this that says, if the number of these things in an hour exceeds 5, then call me. Otherwise, I don't care. And when you do call me, I also need you to aggregate and tell me how many of these things happened. But the initial logic that we were coming out the door with was a lot simpler. And it was basically, if the rule or IOC fires, make a phone call. And then we were just going to throttle it to ensure we don't blow up your phone 150 times. And it sounds like what we need to do is we need to evaluate aggregation logic, possibly with some customization. So you could say things like, when 5 or more happens, only then call me. And then when you do call me, tell me the number of organizations and the number of accounts that this has taken place for.
And Leron, may I take from a business perspective, from my if I'm going to offer this level of service to my customer, I want to be able to charge them for it So I'm going to say, I want the ability to enable this per client, not just have it be de facto. And if I wanted to route to the Kaseya help desk, for example, I want them to be able to act on it. So
Yeah, that may be, Andy, a future feature, right? Of doing it on a per organization basis, because that kind of complicates things from a logic standpoint in terms of how we do it. So phase one is probably going to be some simplistic version of preventing too many phone calls. And then the way that we do it with all the other features, we'll listen, we'll collect feedback, and we'll continuously improve it over time.
yeah, okay. So then it comes up to, do I offer this service or not? And do we add a, a fee for that type of thing? Okay, cool.
Add the fee, Andy. Add the fee.
The perfect segue, by the way, Liron, and I again like to come back to, you mentioned India. If it is CMMC level 2, then you do have to make the call, Liron. And I just want to clarify that.
Leron specifically.
Yeah, I'll send you my hourly billing rate, Andrew.
So before we move on, Andrew, I'll just comment for Amanda when she watches this recording. Great job, Amanda. This is your most talked about segment ever.
Yeah, right. Very true.
Or maybe
Sorry
she's
you
more
missed it.
effective not being here.
I don't think so.
I'm being sarcastic at this
I
point.
know you are. So a lot of good comments in the chat. I'm sure our team is going to collect all those and compile that different feature requests and suggestions back into Andrew. So that was worth the walk for me.
Very, very good. And it's a perfect segue, Chip, because the fish of the week and the Workday breach are why I'm just gonna flag, and CG was also kind of an agreement where phone calls and just some concerns I have, right? So IT support team, phishing are back, right? And I got one here. And if you look at Workday, are you familiar with this one here, Chip, that just happened?
Yes, I am.
Okay. First off, let's go to the videotape. I absolutely applaud their CEO. When you look at, by the way, you and I always talk about what does good look like in the face of a breach or an incident, as opposed to some others that will go nameless. Most recently, that were very opaque. This is well done. This is what got. As a client, you can feel confident that, we're confident that none of your access to your tenants, and they go on to say, where is it here? Bear with me. They do go on to say, however, this is what did, the threat actor did get, business, if you're a client of ours, they most likely got your name, your email, your address, your phone number. That to me is just absolute world class in terms of transparency. So let me get your thoughts there, Chip, before I go on to the actual attack.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we talked about this more than once, or this general topic in the past 6 weeks, over other people who have failed and comparing them to those who have succeeded in effectively communicating when an incident occurs. And there's a lesson for all of us. There are times when an MSP has got to deliver bad news, and the best way to do it is as honestly and straightforward as possible, with all the disclosure you can give it. Obviously on taking into account any legal advice you get, but this was really well done.
And again, the excuse you'll tell something, well, we want to make sure all the forensic, and I get that, these guys are publicly traded. They're massive. They've got 25,000-30,000 clients of the biggest companies on earth. But I think it shows their sophistication of knowing, number one, their logs, what is and what isn't access. Their security program is highly, highly evolved. It was really well done. Now, what happened? Well, this is my concern a little bit for where this was going, for the question about using voice and all this kind of stuff. So Workday was compromised through a CRM platform. It was an OAuth based attack, which we'll talk about in a minute, Chip. And what's interesting is this is the part here. This is the part where, again, I just wanted to call it out, Liron, to go, hey, this is in vogue, that if threat actors know that your organization uses a methodology to contact your clients, there's a good chance they are going to potentially jump on that bandwagon and try it. So that's my only concern. And Chip, this is the Shiny Hunters extortion group as opposed to the Pay Safe extortion group. So you can feel good dealing with the Shiny Hunters.
They certainly sound like good Halloween costumes to me.
Yeah. So what they did was, it was a phishing OAuth. They created. It looks like they created an enterprise app to get an employee to authenticate to Salesforce, and that is how they got in. So interesting one. But I just again wanted to double down on what's old is new. And posing as IT or HR is something that threat actors are continuing to do.
Yeah, the one thing I just want to emphasize here, Andrew, with the piece that you have highlighted, we talk all the time in the context of Microsoft about token theft attacks. And what you see written there is another way of saying, more than likely, this is a token theft attack. Somebody crafted a page that looked like a correct OAuth. And I know Ben and I have brought it up in some of our seminars that we've done and we've brought up in this call, but it's just a worthwhile reminder. It's not just Microsoft who is susceptible to a token harvest. Any SaaS application is susceptible to a token harvest. And it's worth drilling that in to your customers that they have more to protect than just their, knowledge worker productivity suite and email. That there's everything that they use, and they have to be thoughtful about it.
And doubling down on, hey, if you're thinking of or building a vCISO practice, and we always talk about, it's about how the business makes money. It's about data flow. Like having a data flow diagram conversation with your customers is important. And the reason it is because let's assume your client, our clients are typically not going to run, you probably have some that are running Salesforce, but maybe they're running HubSpot, Chip. And, you're sitting in a conversation there with the executive team and let's just say the marketing person or sales, or someone goes, yeah. And, our process is we take the contracts with our customers, and this happens. This is I'm giving you real verbatim conversation here. And then we take the contract and we put it back into Salesforce. Well, that wouldn't be too good right now, right? If the threat actor had access to all your contracts in your CRM. So understanding how your customer manages their data, where they put their data, why they put it there, etc., is important. Wrapping things up for today, this one. So on one hand, if you're running in Central on-prem or know of anybody that does, this is now about a week old. I'll call out kudos to Enable. They jumped all over this in terms of developing a hotfix. This was in CISA's KEV, known externally KEV. They're known exploitable vulnerabilities, which went right to, we had an NVD link. So everything was out there, as you can see, right away. And so Enable jumped all over this. CISA was all over this. News was all over this. And yet Monday morning, Chip, this is what I open up to, that shadow server, which scans, still vulnerable devices, saw about 800 still unpatched. So this goes back to the whole thing, the whole SonicWall conversation that Corey and I were having, and that we had on the Cyber Call, which is patch policy and your processes, man, are so critical to have a conversation with your client. And they're typically around edge devices and things that aren't automated in your RMM, like your Windows and all those others. So well said, Ben. Anyway, any thoughts on this, Chip?
Not a whole lot other than a slightly snarky and hopeful statement that, Enable sells a lot more to mid-market enterprise and even enterprise than some of the other MSP tools that, our community uses. And I'm just going to hope and pray that none of these 800 unpatched had anything to do with an MSP. They were all corporate IT who couldn't get around to it.
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope they're all, well, I don't hope any of them. I'm not hoping any of them, but I hope it's not an MSP. In closing, like I said, Corey came on the Cyber Call. This is Spencer Pollock. He's a breach attorney from McDonald Hopkins. He's worked well north of 1,000 cases. He'll be on the Cyber Call Monday with Eric Tildes. We're going to be talking because what came up in the Cyber Call was he is still dumbfounded about MSAs and SOWs that he's getting during compromises. Some MSPs not having updated SOWs and MSAs for 5 years ago, some not having them at all, indemnification, poorly written, on and on and on. So we just wanted to redo a Cyber Call specifically to that because we felt it was needed based on the fact that he's working, like I said, 20 plus cases right now of the SonicWall. We'll call it poor hygiene incidences. So I'll leave it at that.
How did you get Corey to look like he was wearing a kid's panda bear suit?
Or Mickey Mouse.
So that's his chair.
I know, but it's just funny the way it came across.
It kind of looks a little like Harry Potter too, with the cloak. But I love that you caught Chris smiling.
That is rare, isn't it? That is rare. So anyway, that's the top of the hour. Appreciate everybody's input as always. I thought this was very, appreciate everybody's, collaboration. It's always makes it a lot more enjoyable and a lot more worthwhile for the SaaS Alerts team. So
100%.
Thoughts, Chip?
Nope. I think that's a wrap and a good one. That was a great call. Really appreciate everybody's feedback and all the segments. And on to the next one for me. I got people waiting on another one, so I'm going to bounce.
All right, bud. See you guys.
Thanks,
be
everyone.
safe.
Bye-bye.
Adios.